knew what you were made of, then we would save the world. If we knew the blood we came from, then we would save the world. From its emptiness and hopelessness, we are the only ones who save the kids. Only we can save the world.
The black city's defined, the black on black crime is only a factor to black folk who lack mind. Get your mind in check before you get your kind checked. The revolution ain't immune to your old mindsets. Your revelation seeks illumination. Our reservations to react where the rats seek the preservation of the status quo where black folk lack the most. From rags to bold, show I'm passionate to crack the code and crack the skull of your coat where your crossbones meet. We ain't the same as those past generations be. Ready for action, influenced by truth. Enemies collapsing with king in the booth or on the tube, or challenging academia in the media. Writing sonnets or draft studies, don't know what's easier. Verse words in first person I achieve without a curse word or purse person. How you do it then? Big house built before my words were influencing. This crowd filled before I killed with the music team. It's our world and we're the true in them. So I carry this cross like Jim Waits to show you that we will win.
If you knew what you were made of, then we would save the world. If we knew the blood we came from, then we would save the world. From its emptiness and hopelessness, we are the only ones who save the kids. Only we can save the world.
As those who had violently claimed dominance prove themselves ill-equipped for sustainability, plunging this world into a darkness never before chronicled in what is left of man's historical record. What became apparent was that the remaining swarthy seed of the indigenous, once scorned, perhaps for the sins of their fathers, were in fact the ones in possession of the Holy Grail, the royal blood required to unite our warring species, delivering peace and a unity forgotten to the longevity of our suffering. The problem is, most are entirely unaware that they possess this gift, this unique ability to save a dying world.
If you knew what you were made of, then we would save the world. If we knew the blood we came from, then we would save the world. From its emptiness and hopelessness, we are the only ones who save the kids. Only we can save the world.
Hey yo, shut up people, what's going on? Hello everybody, good evening, good Sunday evening. How you all doing? For Neil, I appreciate the compliment, man. I appreciate the compliment. We Own Them says, dropping knowledge, literally on the track. Well, you know, come on. I'm not gonna be talking all this and then rapping all that. It don't really make any sense. Has to be consistent, you know. So yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to make. And I've got better tracks, by the way. I'm glad you really like the song. I promise you, I've got much better tracks to come. The next single I'm gonna release is a track I've already made called Painted Melodies. I'm just kind of like sorting out some stuff in the back end before I make it available for streaming. So yeah, shout out. I'm actually doing a first today. I'm actually joint streaming. It was a new kind of feature on Instagram. So I'm actually a new feature on StreamYard where I can stream this whilst I'm streaming on YouTube. I can also stream on Instagram, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I'm doing my first ever kind of co-stream, which is pretty exciting. But while the track was playing, a few people came in and they left straight away. Such is life. But hopefully a few more people will join via Instagram. My Instagram is pretty dead, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I got suppressed after about 5 or 6 posts on Instagram. So now I'm on like 3,000 followers, but now it doesn't matter what I post, I don't get over 200 likes. Literally, I just get capped. I'll get like 200 likes in the first like day, and then Instagram doesn't share my content with no one. So I'm being like properly heavily suppressed on that platform. I don't know what to do about it. I don't know if it's worth just making a new account. I don't know if I can be bothered. Yeah, so yeah, I've been like under 3,000 followers for like over a year, which is just like insane. So yeah, go figure. Anyway, don't really need it, so I'm not really that bothered. But yeah, shout out to you, Mr. We Own Them or Mrs. Saying dropping knowledge on the track. Appreciate that. Jew Wagwan, hope you're good, my brother. And a shout out to MK D'Angelo. Shout out D'Angelo, RIP King. He says he's dropped me 35 rand, and he said, "Hi, long time fan here. Do you believe that a rap that doesn't curse is of a higher tier? I really liked your song, but that kind of caught me off guard." What caught you off guard? Did I swear? I don't remember cursing. Oh, when I said verse, I said verse words in first person I achieve without a curse word or purse bursting. That's what I said. So it's verse words in first person I achieve without a curse word or purse bursting. How's he do it then? Big house built before my words were influencing. This crowd filled before I killed with the music thing. So that's what I said. Just a little bit of a wordplay there, but I was talking about not cursing. So yeah, I'm kind of in agreement there. I don't know if that's what you meant. But anyway, shout out to you and thank you for your donation. Appreciate that. So where are we today? What are we doing today? Shout out to my only Instagram, whoever that is who's on Instagram, who's actually on this live now. You're my only Instagram. So I appreciate you. Don't know how long you're gonna stay in there, but yeah, shout out to you. Okay. All right, let's get kicking. So today's live stream is a continuation of the one that we started a couple of live streams ago, which is our visit to the Cairo Museum, which I told you guys is going to take a long time because I think I mentioned the fact that I did a file count and I had taken 1,092, I think I said, or was it 1,029 or 1,092? I can't remember. What photos. I don't even know how that's possible. But the good thing is it puts into context the reason why my battery required 3 chargings whilst I was there. Three full. From 0 to full, I charged my phone 3 times, or the equivalent of 3 times, because I managed to drain my entire you get those portable kind of like phone charging batteries. That my portable battery charger thing gives my phone 3 charges, and I managed to drain both my phone and my charger to 0 in that one visit. So yeah, that makes sense now. Makes total sense. So anyway, let's carry on. That's enough of the preamble. We can kind of just get into this where we left off. So yeah, who's ready to start? Blah 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 blah. Okay, I'm just gonna block this person. I haven't got time for that. So this is just ban this user and delete their comments. Sorry, I just have to ban a troll before we get started. I don't mind people dissenters, by the way, but I won't take anyone coming in here trying to disrespect the fam. Yeah, that's not happening. Yeah, I don't tolerate any disrespect. Yeah. So if you're gonna come in here and you are going to be a dissenting voice, just be respectful. And I will have no reason to block you. And trust me, there's no one in this community who's got to be afraid of any questions you have to ask. There's one thing that we stand on in this community is business. Yeah. And we ain't seen a Eurocentric yet that's been able to sustain a decent argument for more than 2 minutes. So, there you go. Let's get started. So I ended the last live stream on this image that you can see in front of you. Okay. And I didn't really share who I thought it was, but I'm going to share it with you because it's entirely harmless and actually might be useful to you guys if I share who I think this is. Now, this is entirely unattributed at the current stage. Okay. There was no plaque with it. So this is pure speculation, but I'm going to tell you right now that I think this is Ramesses. Okay. I'm not going to dwell on this for very long. And some of you are not going to agree with this, and that's fine. but I think this is Ramesses. Okay, it has very strong affinity to 19th dynasty artwork. There's a portrait of KM Toure, who's his son, and a portrait of KM Wasset that has a very similar depiction. Also, I think both of them are wearing leopard skins in that, and they happen to have quite similar facial features to Ramesses. The reason I think this is Ramesses, and this is where it's really going to go, woo, a lot of you are going to go, what the hell are you talking about? But I'm going to just tell you why I think this is Ramesses. I've shared this theory with a lot of people. I'm going to say I'm going to move on. So don't ask me any questions because I'm not going to answer them. I think that Ramesses is a twin. I don't think Ramesses is one person. And I think there's most depictions of Ramesses in steles seems to support this. And I'm going to leave it at that. So I actually think this is a depiction of the Ramesses twins. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to move on and I'm not going to answer any questions because it's too loaded. And you know me, I don't like to really argue a theory until I have like everything organized to present to you. But that's it. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to move on from there. So let's move on to the next image, which is this one. I may or may not have mentioned when I went to the Cairo Museum, they are very strategic with the way they use light in that museum. They're incredibly strategic. So you can see I've fired some flash onto this one, okay, which is in a box, but they're very strategic. And when I say they're strategic with the way they use light, if there's an artifact, it just happened to be that all of the artifacts, like, you know, who's seen my short? Just kind of like say in the comments if you see my short. I did a short about the statue of Amenemhat. It's actually going a little bit viral at the moment. I think it's got over 100,000 views. It's a short. It's about the statue of Amenemhat, where he's wearing the leopard skin and he's got the thick dreadlocks. Just give me a shout out in the comments if you've seen that short that I've posted. Okay, I'd assume most of you had, considering it's got so many views. The reason I mention that is because of the overt Africanity of not only his facial features, but of the accoutrements that he's wearing and the way he presents himself. He just looks like very much like an African king with his dreadlocks and his African facial features and his leopard skin throw. Like similar to the statue that I've just shown you, once again, very African presenting. They put it in a non-lit area. They're very strategic about this, and they have this kind of rule that you're not allowed to use flash in the museum. So they're just, whenever something's like African, and I realize this isn't an accident. I realize this because it's kind of like, why is this statue in a dark part of the museum? That statue is in a very dark part of the museum. And they just do that deliberately. Just like, okay, this is an African presenting statue. We're going to shove it in the darkness. And we're also going to say that you can't take pictures using flash. So essentially they're kind of like kneecapping the ability for people to proliferate the more African presenting imagery. And they do this a lot. And I think I've got some more examples of it. But anyway, here's a statue that I saw. Okay. And I'll tell you one of the things. So this is a statuette of King Seti. And if I just go back to this image, I don't know if I've mentioned to you guys before, but I think this has clearly been tampered. And one of the things that I think I've shared with you guys before is that if you are face on with any human being or anyone really, the nostrils shouldn't show in a really deep M form like that. Okay, that's I call this, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but I call this like the MJ nose, like the post-surgery MJ nose. Okay, where you're looking at someone face on and you can clearly see up their nostrils. That shouldn't happen. This happens in quite a lot of ancient Egyptian artwork, not because they were bad artists, but that's a clear telltale sign that they have been slim in the nose. They will slim the top of the nares, okay, and they will also slim the tip of the nose, and it's the slimming of the tip of the nose that makes the nostrils a lot more visible from the front. and and you can obviously see how it's lightened well. The kind of like the dust is kind of like spread around it, so you can see that's the case. But the point is that if you see ancient Egyptian artwork and it has that kind of like Michael Jackson feature, like there's a few artworks that you guys go, oh, MJ, it's not because they had a population of people who look like MJ. It's because normally a telltale sign that the nose has been tampered with, and this nose of Seti I has been tampered with. Okay, I say that with a good degree of confidence. Okay. Shout out to my Instagram person who actually answered one of my questions as well. Said they see my short. Shout out Gigglebox, whoever you are. I'm not sure if you're still on, but you guys, I'm gonna give a little bit of preferential treatment. I hope you don't mind. I don't love you, my 80 people who are in in YouTube right now. It's just that it's a little bit of a novelty having my Instagram feed going and my Instagram followers as well. But I love you both. Let me rotate this round. Do I have? Yeah, that's the rotate button. So yeah, that is a statue of King Seti I, 19th dynasty. We know that it's the father of Ramesses the Great. This is a box pose. This is a lot less detailed than a lot of box statues that you'll see. Any clues about who it is? Okay, really nice artifact, this one. Okay, so it's a block statue of Hor. He was a priest of Montu. So this is 25th dynasty. So this is the Kushite dynasty, god of Armant. Through the genealogy of Hor that is carved on the statue, we know that his family served in the Theban clergy for 5 generations at least. By the way, guys, are you looking? I don't normally do this, but look at my trainers. Yeah, these are Seafoam Jordan 1s. Yeah, these are my favorite trainers. I didn't literally deliberately take this photo, but I did just notice them, and I thought some of you will appreciate the swag that's going on there. It is levels. Allow me. Let me move on. So let's move on. So we just have a floating head here. Okay. We have another statue that's had the nose treatment. Any guesses on who this is based on facial features? My gut, and by the way, I haven't memorized anything, but my gut is leaning towards Thutmose III here. The reason I say that is because of the triangular shape of the face. That's a really strong Thutmose feature. I could be wrong, by the way. It's just a straight up 100% guess, but I'm gonna guess that this is a Thutmose statue. If not, I think it sits somewhere in the 18th dynasty. Could be wrong. Oh, we don't have a plaque. That's a shame. We don't have a plaque, so we can't confirm who this is. But I would say our first appearance, that reminds me of Thutmose III. So a couple of you said Ramesses, and I'm not hating that. I'm not hating that as a possible Ramesside statue as well. The eyes are giving a lot of Ramesses, but I think the face shape is giving me a lot of Thutmose III. Okay, this is a lovely statue. Look at that. Holding 2 ankhs. I hope I got the plaque there. I can see it. So here we go. Yeah, so statue in granite, 22nd dynasty. Okay, that's what it tells us. So it's this grey granite statue in the attitude of Osiris. So it's a statue done in the manner of Osiris. We haven't got the name of the character, but look at that. How wonderful is that? That is a dope statue. Nice, lovely. Okay. So let's go from another angle there. That's a really dope statue. It's really giving me some strong... It's giving me strong satin. I was gonna say Igbo, but let's keep it moving anyway. This statue here, which has been partially cleaned, it's very rare that we get this kind of like preservation of original color on the face. It's interesting because you can see remnants of gilding as well. So it makes you think, did the gilding come before or after? What looks like that brown presentation. Ah, actually, this is a good side note to share something with you guys as well. Okay. Um, pause. Pause. I'm going to share what I'm going to share about this statue, but I'm going to put a comment on the screen, which I have seen is just turned up. Okay. And I'm going to give a shout out to you, Tariq Jamal. He said, TKM, appreciate your vids, learned a lot from you. By the way, I'm Somali and 90% of us identify as black. The people who say we are not black are like them African sellouts with low racial self-esteem. So I think Tariq is referring to a video on my other channel, which is addresses the kind of like recent controversy with the way Trump has kind of turned on the Somali community, and then this kind of explores this question about from a Somali perspective, I should say, of whether or not Somalis accept or reject the label black. And I tried to stay kind of as neutral as possible and kind of just review what people had said. But what I found, and it's really encouraging, is a load of Somalis have messaged me and just kind of said exactly what Tariq is saying here. He's saying, look, there's a few of them, but by and large, we know what time it is. So I love that. I love the fact that there's so many people in the Somali community who have stood on business. Because I would say even me, I was kind of like, in the side of my mind, I was kind of thinking, it seems to be a lot of them who have this view. And if they had that view, whatever, like, I don't really care. Like, do what you got to do. Like, you know, no one's begging you to be here. But then a whole bunch of people from the Somali community have just like stood on business and say, hey, they do not speak for us, man. Like, we're cool. We don't have that question mark. We know what time it is. And I love that. I love that, man. So I just want to give you a shout out to Tariq and my Somali followers, who I know I've got a few that we message and we chat back and forth. So I know I've got a load of Somali. So there would never be any disrespect coming from my perspective or from my direction towards the entire community, because I already know there's so many of you that are down. But it's nice either which way to kind of hear those other people kind of like giving their 2 cents on that topic. So shout out to you. Love it. Okay, now going back to this statue here, gilding. I would say it's a theory, but I don't even think it's a theory at this point. I think it's pretty much confirmed. And once I say it to you guys, you're going to realize that it's the case as well. Gilding, when it's on the skin in ancient Egypt, wasn't supposed to be left naked. So what do I mean by this? We've got so many sarcophagi, so many coffins, inner coffins, outer coffins. We have the golden mask of King Tut. And from having observed, I would say, hundreds of gilded artifacts across museums, across museums across the world, I have come to the conclusion that gilding in most cases was supposed to be painted, and in most cases was painted. I think the ancient Egyptians liked the metallic effect of gold beneath paint color. And what you're going to find, if I don't do it on today's live stream, I don't come across a gilded artifact. When I do future live streams, because I've got so many different museums to show you guys of when I was actually there's still 2 more museums to go. When I was actually in Cairo, we're going to come across some of these gilded artifacts, and I'm going to show you that you will find either that they're either painted, they're still painted, or there's paint in the crevices. And it's led me to believe most artifacts, and I'm going to say including the golden mask of King Tutankhamun, originally had brown paint over the gold. The ancient Egyptians loved the effect of gold beneath the paint. It gave a metallic, glowy hue. And obviously there's probably a significance, a spiritual significance to the use of gold beneath the paint. But even just on an aesthetic, it was very, very, very powerful. And I'm finding that once I came to that realization, I would come across coffee and stuff like that, and it would either still show lots of paint on top of the gilding, or you could see where they had rubbed away the paint or used chemicals. Remember, they're using things like amyl acetate and benzene to get rid of the paint. So they're deliberately using chemicals that they know will just will strip away the paint and will leave the gold layer intact. But I'm finding that it's almost impossible that they got rid of. It's seldom the case that they got rid of all of the paint. There's always kind of evidence that paint used to be there. So now that I've said that to you guys, I want you to look out for it, because you might look at an artifact like this and think, oh, well, that's peculiar. Why is it kind of like gold and brown? Remember, gilding a lot of the time was used beneath paint because they wanted that metallic glow, that kind of metallic hue that you got from doing that two-step process. So now that I've said that, I want you to bear that in mind, and you're going to see it all the time. And you'll see that that's not something that I'm kind of like imagining or making up. It's something that's proven. But anyway, let me continue. Okay, so we've got this artifact, which is partially restored, if I'll be honest with you. Let's have a look. This is a really interesting one. I haven't seen it before. You can see where there's kind of two halves to it. It would be nice to know. I'm going to assume that this is the original half. I would hope that this isn't the original half, because then this is just the figment of someone's imagination. So I'd assume that this is the original half, but God only knows when you're dealing with these antiquities in museums. Got a wonderful statue here of an ancient Egyptian wearing, I think that's the Shent crown. Does anyone know or have an idea who that might be? Here's what's interesting enough. Feature-wise, I'm leaning towards the 18th dynasty. However, stone-wise, and this is going to sound really bizarre to you, stone-wise, I find that the Ptolemaic dynasties really liked this particular style of granite. So it's only just the use of stone, nothing else, that makes me lean towards this being a Ptolemaic era. I doubt it, but they do have a real favor for this red and black stone. I found more than any other. I got a couple people on Instagram. I got Nydia in Instagram. Shout out to you, Nydia. She just said double cobra is upper. Yep, and we know that I was favored by the Kushites as well. I mentioned that earlier. So the W race is kind of like a thing that you see amongst the Kushites. So yeah, so this could be Kushite. This could be 25th. You might have actually, just by highlighting the W race, you might have actually solved the puzzle. This could be a 25th dynasty. Look at that though. It's a wonderful piece of work, isn't it? Beautiful. And I mentioned the other day that I always get the Macy said Ptolemaic dynasties don't count. Well, you know what? I'm coming full circle on that, you know. I really am. I think the Africanity of the Ptolemaic dynasties has been really understated. And I'm kind of on a mission to kind of reclaim the Ptolemaic dynasties alongside everything else. I swear to you, I'm actually being really serious here. I think there's a big hole in history that's being missed out there. But don't worry about it. It's not going to replace anything. Okay, it's not going to replace anything. I just think I'm not willing to write it off as an area of investigation anymore, whereas I would have been before. This is a wonderful artifact again. I find that this headrest here, I would love to know what the name of it is, because this headrest actually is one that I'm finding to be relatively pharaonic, almost, actually I could almost say exclusively noble, but certainly quite pharaonic, but it's one that perhaps we don't address enough. So I'd like to know what the name of this particular headdress is. But this is a wonderful piece here in granite. Look how smooth that is. It looks like it's been made in a mold. That's crazy. I know people are like, oh, manual tools, this, that, and the other, but sometimes you have to be in front of this artwork and you have to be in front of the finishing. And like, think about how many thousands of years old this is, and it's still shining like that. I don't know if you've seen my documentary about the Serapeum, but I'm telling you, man, it just puts some of the oversimplified Egyptological and archaeological claims into question to me. I'm just like, nah, you guys are making this way too simple. I'm sorry. You're making it way too simple, man. Another box pose or block pose. Sometimes I wish I could just like run through this script and just tell you exactly what's being said here. Imagine if I could just reel this off to you guys. That would be amazing. At the moment, I'm just kind of like restricted to just about being able to read people's names in the Sedex and the cartouches. That's literally about it. This is a lovely piece. Let me move on. Okay. This is another wonderful piece. I wonder do we have I'm guessing we have the wife. Actually, no. Looking at a chest, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. Because I would have said that's maybe a representation of Hathor and the wife, but actually looking at the chest, I don't think that is the wife. I think that could be. Not sure. Let me zoom out a little bit for you guys to see this artifact. No plaque. By the way, guys, please don't shoot the messenger when I zoom ahead or when I skip a photo and you're like, you didn't tell us who that is. It's kind of like, I probably didn't know who it was because there was no plaque. If there's a plaque, I always take a photo. Okay, so that's the only thing I'd say. Look at this wonderful image here. Beautiful. Now, this is a pose that's very, very, obviously, I would say very, very New Kingdom. It's a pose that we see Queen Tian, we see Amos Nefertari, and we see Tuya in quite a lot. This exact pose. In fact, this is that pose. We see Queen Tuya, or sorry, not Queen. We see Tuya, mother of the Queen, Queen Mother Tuya, I should say. We see her in this pose quite a lot. And that crown made of urases in a circle. So this is a statue of it's another 25th dynasty statue of Amenerdis. So this is a queen. A lot of people also miss out the fact that naming convention of putting Amen that we see amongst the Kushite dynasty is something that they continued. So even after Egypt fell and we had the Meroritic rulers, the Merorite rulers, like Amani Reynas and Amani this and Amani that. Amani is just another pronunciation of Amen. So the rulers of Kush, the Kushite rulers, the Merorite rulers, some of them you could say are rulers of kind of like greater Upper Egypt. But they continued that trend of putting Amen in their names. Okay, so that didn't stop. Armani and Amen is the same. It's the same thing. Okay. This statue of Egyptian alabaster on a base of black granite represents Amenerdis, daughter of Kashta, one of the kings of the Nubian 25th dynasty. She bore the title of divine wife of Amun or Amen. This gave her as much power as the king himself, but only in the Theban area. It's funny how they kind of like put that down as like a disclaimer, only in the Theban area, really. Really, how much do they really know about the power of the kings and queens of the Kushite dynasty? I doubt it heavily. So I gave a little side view of that beautiful Kushite artifact. So is this part of the no, this is a different one. I was just seeing if that what I was filming here was a part of that. It's not. Okay, so we have I'm just looking. Ptol. Oh, this is Ptolemaic. This is Ptolemus. Yeah, this is Ptolemus. This is Ptolemus on something. But this is Ptolemaic dynasty anyway. I can say that with that definitely the first half of this cartouche says Ptolemus. This is Ptolemaic era. Oh. Well, good thing I could read that because there was no plaque on this either. You can see the word tar down here as well. Tar. Batar, I should say. Okay, let's move on. This is a very expressive statue. Okay, you've got some really deep lines there. Looks like someone who's relatively elderly, and they're holding this. Look at that. Unfortunately, we've lost all of the faces here, which is such a shame. It would have been lovely to see this. I've got a close up there. Okay, so you can see quite clearly here as well. We have one wearing the kind of that crown that Armin wears. There's a statue of goddess Aphrodite. Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love and beauty. She was born from the foam of the sea in a pearl shell near Cyprus. That wasn't the one I just showed you. It must be the next. That's this one. As I say, that was definitely not a statue of Aphrodite before. So this is a statue of Aphrodite. Fresh head, always the case. It looks like the replacement has come from here or something's going on. So arms, head here. So this complete piece might be an entire replacement. God only knows. But you'll seldom find a Greek statue with the original head, which I find very interesting. So these are some, I think I just took a picture of some of these kind of like Greek artifacts because I wasn't expecting to see them in the Cairo Museum, but they are quite proud of their Greek artifacts. And even the new museum, the Grand Egyptian Museum, they have a massive kind of Greek, not just Greco-Egyptian, but actually Greek part, for want of a better word, of the museum. So yeah. Let's move on. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the Greek stuff because I'm not that interested in that, if I'm going to be totally honest with you. This is a really interesting piece. Kind of coiled cobra. Head of Zeus Amun. I mean, that was interesting in itself, the nomenclature of Zeus Amun. Who knew that Zeus was a derivation of Amun? I'm not sure if I was aware of that. I think that's probably why I took the photo. I was like, Zeus Amun. Why have I never heard that nomenclature before? I've obviously heard Zeus Ethiops, okay, which is his original name, but is rarely referred to because obviously it then relates into the Ethiopians. But that's what they originally knew Zeus as. Okay, I'm gonna kind of just do a skip through these Greek stuff if that's all right, guys. I know that some of you might be interested, but I don't really want to walk and talk through. Okay. I mean, this is interesting. This is a very typical Ptolemaic artifact, very typical Ptolemaic looking artifact here. Very, very typical. Shout out to you, Rock Ivan. Let's give you a quick shout out. Thank you very much for becoming a YouTube member. I appreciate your support, man. You are, yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. So I'm skipping. Okay, so I think we're back now to some Egyptian artifacts. This is a wonderful piece here. I mean, that's a dope piece. I've got to go back. Who's seen this before? Look at that. Absolutely dope. And it's pretty big as well. Hefty piece here. Once again, a lot of these were just in transport as well. So some of you are wondering, like, why haven't we got more information about these? There's so many pieces in the museum that aren't actually like properly on display. They've just parked them to the side, and this is one of them where they're just like parked them to the side, and you see like a bunch of boxes, and the intention is to move them somewhere, move them on. It's like I said, it's a factory of movement, you know. Shout out to Yuya, one of my Discord members in the Instagram. Peace to you, brother. Good to have you. And shout out to the 135 people in YouTube. Cool. Let's keep moving. Make sure I haven't missed anyone. No, that's cool. All right. Lovely stele here. So we've got Heru and Pharaoh. Just trying to have a look if we've got a this is strictly speaking Heru Ra. Not entirely sure what it's depicting. This one looking really scrappy. It's just like they've used a piece of stone but use it like papyrus, which is really, really odd. You know, this is what I'm used to. This is engraved, okay, and in color. And then you've got this one, which everything looks like it's just sitting on the surface. And these hieroglyphs, I mean, they are still hieroglyphs. It's not, I mean, some of them look like they're very close to being, I think that some of these are hieractic. So some of these are hieractic. So this is like a, don't know what era this would be. And once again, these are really quite hurriedly made, these ones. Some of you said there's potential that they're not authentic. I don't know. I couldn't say. I don't have enough evidence either way. I'd need to know more about where it was found and what's been attributed to it. But yeah, I can see why you'd say that. First of all, could definitely see why you'd say that. So this is what I'm talking about in terms of the very mid lighting that you get for some of these pieces, where you're just kind of like, what's going on? Now this room, this is a very not well lit room. And this is this drawing was made in 1891, and obviously you can see the contrast between, I'm surprised they had this on display, but have a look at the contrast between the only thing you can classify them as the native people carrying the sarcophagi and the very Arab presenting the horse here. Okay, so it's clear that even back in 1891, those of you who've seen my 1925 video, you can see what the general population was looking like, or at least the native population was looking like at that time. Now, it does kind of raise the question, was there an unspoken protocol about who was allowed to handle the artifacts? Because I did find back in, when you look at some of the old photos and footage, there tends to be kind of this unwritten rule that it's the locals who deal with the artifacts. And then that kind of like shifts over time, and now it's kind of like anyone, you know, anyone who Zahi Hawass gives the sign off to. So I've got a couple photos of that. So there's the name of the artist, Simil Boyard. And this entire room was really dark, but I remember there was some interesting artifacts in it. So some coffins there. And then some very interesting jet black artifacts, which are kind of like giant shrubties. Giant shrubties. I'm not sure what the hadn't seen something like that before, but I obviously got the photos. And there's the gilding, so you guys can see. Right, you can kind of see the remnants. Okay, you kind of see the remnants, what I'm talking about, and you'll see better photos of it. But can you see the remnants of the brown on there? Like I said, I'm gonna lean on the fact that I'm gonna look at the hands. If you don't believe me, look at the hands. Look at the amount of brown, kind of remnants of brown that are on the hands. Okay, this gilding was painted over, so I want you to keep an eye on that, because that's something that's gonna be recurring as a theme. You're gonna see it over and over again. This is interesting, and it might be true, because think about how much when we were growing up, and just putting a comment on the screen by Patrina, she said they didn't want to be cursed, so the locals handled the artifacts. And that might sound really silly to some of you, but you have to remember, like, you know, this kind of like overtly kind of like secular, you know, Western academic Egyptology is a recent phenomena to that region of the earth. Do you remember when we were growing up, all of those kind of like rumors that we'd hear about, you know, tomb curses and the curse of Tutankhamun and mummy curses? And that was obviously, now we're kind of a bit older and we're several decades removed, and it sounds laughable, but at the time it was very, I would say it was widely held and widely believed, you know. So imagine that, compound that with a very religious population like you have in Egypt, with people who are, you know, they don't want to be handling the dead and this, that, and the other. So I'd say that's quite a sensible outlook. It's very possible that could have been the case. So yeah, thank you for that input. But anyway, yeah, like I said, have a look at the painted gilding, like I was saying to you before, this shiny brown. And I think the fact that we have so much stuff that's naked gild, and with just the remnants of the paint on it now, is not an accident. Once again, remember, once they classify something as being dirt, okay, that just needs to be agreed kind of on a informal basis, has to be agreed. And there's no truer illustration of this than when we look at the notes of Howard Carter, and he has it in his notes talking about what is flesh colored. And he essentially said flesh colored is the color of Tutankhamun's Ushabtis when it was raw wood, that kind of yellowy brown. He called that flesh color. Literally, you can see it in black and white. And by calling that flesh color, he then is given the green light to himself, not only himself, but everyone who comes after him, to restore things to their flesh color. I.e., if something's covered in brown paint, we can classify it as dirty. So this is how Egyptology works. Establish the protocol. All women are yellow. All men are brick red. All coffins are gilded. And then now we've set the protocol. We've given ourselves the rule set to be able to clean things or to restore things towards that bias. And that's what you get, a whole load of that in the Cairo Museum, a whole bunch of stuff where you look at it and you're like, this is being restored, quote unquote restored, you know? And this is another example of it. This is definitely being restored. Okay, look at this. This, I mean, this is not a Kemetic color. I'm sorry, there's just no two ways about it. What is this? This is not a Kemetic color. Okay, this is people restoring things to their biases. Okay, this is interesting. Let's have a read of this really quickly together. So it says unwrapping a mummy. Let's have a read of this. But this is going to reveal something really interesting. So I'll read. In the 19th century, unwrapping mummies was a common way of studying them. In the spring of 1891, the unwrapping of one mummy from Bab el Ghusus by Daniel Fouquet. Why would you need to unwrap a mummy? For God's sake, sorry. A French doctor living in Cairo, and Georges Daressy, adjunct curator of the museum, was painted by Paul Dominique Philippotto, a French painter who was in Cairo between 1890 and 1892. The mummified priestess was named Ta Eret Ra, she who is related to the Eye of Ra. And something that that translation is just, yeah. Egyptological translation has got a long way to go. But anyway, referring to the goddess Hathor, daughter of the sun god Ra. Unfortunately, Tara Eret Ra's body can no longer be located. Oh, that's convenient. But her Amjuat papyrus, found between her legs, and her Book of the Dead papyrus, found inside a hollow Osiris statuette, are displayed in the museum. Oh, well, thanks for that. You just happened to lose her mummy. No doubt they ground that down and consumed it. Now mummies are studied non-destructively with X-rays or CT scans, with interdisciplinary teams paying attention to their archaeological and historical context, how they are mummified and wrapped, and their physical health. Okay, so now that Europeans have had their full and they're, satiated with mummy corpses, they're happy to let the rest in peace. Such are these people. And here we go. So here's the these laughable. I'm sorry, I'm gonna laugh because those of you long enough, you're like, I'm sorry, but no, just no. Okay. These have obviously been repainted. Oh dear. Let's have a really quick read of this. Osiris, Isis, and Nephthys. The ancient Egyptian thoughts were mainly focused on his afterlife, which was agreed upon by all ancient Egyptian beliefs, and therefore he used to prepare the components of his funeral objects that he was keen to have in the tomb according to the capabilities. So he was keen to mummify the body to be placed after that inside a coffin, or more usual, in addition to canopic jars that contain his viscera and their box. Moreover, the Ushabti statues, those carry out the agricultural tasks and digging the canals instead of him. Bear in mind, a lot of these have been translated from Arabic, which is why the English doesn't flow so well. Due to the ancient Egyptian beliefs, only the deities could help the person to do that, and all of them agreed that God, Osiris, had extraordinary characteristics and powers that qualified him to be king of the new area in the underworld, the world of the dead. So he used to receive in his kingdom those who lived a good life. It is good for them to be with him there. And because the deceased turns with his death into the form of Osiris himself, the depiction of Isis and Nephthys sitting or standing with their hands next to their faces in a wailing position on the two sides of the embalming bed reinforces the idea that they were the first two moans in history and confirms their function and role in the lament of the deceased during the process of mummification, which was performed by Anubis, the responsible for both the sacred embalming tent and the process of mummification itself. The four sons of Horus were helping Anubis in the process of embalming the deceased viscera. In the moment they were extracted after washing and purifying the body, and one of their most important roles are that they helped their deceased father Osiris to ascend to the sky, and they also protect his coffin and mummy in the underneath. They help him at the time of resurrection again by preserving and protecting the removed organs during mummification, and then collecting them inside him again in the preparation for his rebirth again in the afterlife, because any deceased is always Osiris. They were concerned with the protection of the dead ones. Also, the idea of goddess Isis contacting the world of the dead developed, and her role in the process of resurrecting the dead was confirmed and highlighted by her unconventional and distinct powers with the help of her sister Nephthys. Okay, let's move on. Hope that was slightly informative to you guys. I haven't got much more to say. So here we go. Here's another illustration of restoration to one's biases. Okay, so pictures of the Egyptian villages, which we should be used to. Okay, it's interesting because these statuettes, which I think they've agreed are men, okay, even though they're carrying things on top of their heads, which is a very feminine task. Very feminine task. Anyway, they've been allowed to remain brown. But then you have these statuettes, which clearly have been restored and repainted. And remember, when you're restoring to your biases. Okay, so you can quite clearly see that the top layer of paint, okay, has worn down significantly, and yet you have this kind of pale color on the women, which would suggest to me one of two things. Either when they found this statuette, it was entirely worn down. And this is, I'm going for A, by the way, in the case of this. Sometimes they restore the white paint, but I think in this case, you had a statue that was almost entirely naked in terms of color. So what you do is you restore it partially, i.e. restore the hair, you restore the eyelashes, you restore the eyeballs, and then you leave the rest as is. And then you successfully convey the idea that this statue, which when they found it was thoroughly worn down and didn't have any paint in it, was actually deliberately pale. And once again, because they've already established the protocol of that bias, this is how they will present it to people. Okay, you see this a lot with these statuettes, and where they don't have the ability to where they haven't done that, they've just painted them yellow. Okay, and this is what they do. They do a lot of a lot of that. Now here's what's interesting, and I'm going to shout out Yuya, who's in my Instagram chat. He said that these people on the left might be young girls, and I would lean on that. What's the evidence we have for that? A, their hair is short. Okay, and this actually, you know what? I'm just gonna shout you out. Boom. So people will ask what's going on there. Let's have a look here. These are, it's much more likely that these are young girls. Okay, first of all, their height in comparison to the men. I mean, to their height. I mean, what are these pygmies? Okay, are these short-statured people? No. Okay. So you got to ask, why are they brown? So here's where it is. It's very, very likely, okay? It's very, very likely that because they've accepted that these are men because of the short hair. Remember, they're assuming, well, short hair must be men because women don't have short hair in their culture. But obviously, short hair on youngsters, on infants, on in Africa is like incredibly common. Just like we saw with the statuettes of those women who were grinding millet, and they said they were men. It's like they've got breasts and they clearly got female forms, and they're doing a job that is literally assigned to women. It's a job that you don't really see men doing. And it's the same here, this aspect of carrying things in your head. This is a job that's normally set aside for the women. Okay, so they've allowed these to be brown in the view that these are men. Okay, if they had interpreted these to be young girls, these would all miraculously be yellow right now, just like these ones on the right are. Okay, so they've allowed these ones to be brown because they thought they were dealing with men. And then that kind of like makes me think along the sides that maybe, just maybe, these looked really similar when they found them. So this is really interesting, but I think that you're onto something there. I'm gonna lean on the fact that these might be young girls, these might be children, okay, and these might be kind of like your grown women on the side, and the only difference between their appearance is the way they've been restored. That would make a lot more sense to me. But yeah, let's keep it moving. That's a really nice thing. I got some other views here actually, and you guys can see like the brown paint on the arms. You can see it. Okay, you can see it. And you can kind of see, I don't know, like tiny little breasts kind of on the chart. I think these are young girls. Because once again, I'm not being biased, but I just, once again, you have to have an idea of kind of like roles in African societies to understand that this is just kind of something that the women do, you know? And obviously, if you have no appreciation for that, you'll just think, oh, well, this is a bunch of tiny men. So I've got some nice close-ups for you guys there. So you can see if they wanted to, they could have rubbed this down and got exactly the same effect that they got here. They could have done that easily. They could have quite easily just rubbed this down and got it down to looking yellow if they felt that this really was supposed to be a girl. But I don't think they did. I think they thought, oh, these are tiny men. So some nice close-ups to you there. Once again, guys, not looking for too much thanks and admiration, but the high-res photos, are you appreciating the effort that I've taken here? Are you appreciating the effort? Look at this. How's that for a high-res photo? Look at that. Okay, so you get a really good view there. And you can see that, yeah, definitely been restored. Okay, definitely restored black paint here on the hair. That's without a doubt. I mean, look how kind of like shoddy, and it's interesting. Here's a woman towards the back. You can see like this is probably how they found them, something like this. Look how little paint has been preserved on this one. And I imagine what we're seeing is just a complete and utter kind of like partial restoration. Shout out to you, Nydia. Love you too. Doing when we're here, joining arms, doing what we need to do to restore African history. Appreciate you too, Yuya. And by the way, guys, not ignoring my family in YouTube. I'm not ignoring my family in YouTube, guys. Thank you, guys. Let's keep it moving. So I got loads of these photos, by the way. This is how you end up taking 1,000 photos when you don't know when to stop. Okay. So anyway, let's get some more statuettes going. These are some more. Okay, some sailors or some men working on boats. Okay, and this is looks like it's some kind of funerary ritual taking place here because we have a sarcophagus. So someone being buried, potentially at sea. Okay, and we have our men, sailors, so to speak. Those of you who've seen my, I did a short on these statuettes. I think it's worth having a look at that as well. And that was quite interesting. Okay. Looks like potentially they were hoisting something there, maybe sails. It's probably, yeah, I'd imagine that this used to have some kind of like sails here. And because it looks like they're all kind of like hoisting the sail here and it's disappeared, which is going to happen obviously over time. Okay. And there's our little miniature sarcophagus. Okay, we've even got that little painted gilt effect on this tiny little miniature sarcophagus. So it says here, funeral bark. The deceased was supposed to go to the realm of Osiris, god of the afterworld, and to make the pilgrimage to his sacred city, Abydos or Abdu. To evoke this trip, the mummified person is shown on a boat, magically making the voyage to Abydos and the west, where the afterworld was located. I'm actually doing a little bit of a, actually I'll bring you guys into this actually. I'm actually doing a little bit of a, I wouldn't call it a, it's like an investigation, a comparative investigation I'm doing. Because I found that actually the Greek naming convention of ancient Egyptian cities actually wasn't to bastardize them. And I think a lot of the idea that the names were kind of fully bastardized came from the fact that we're not fully sure where the vowels went in the original ancient Egyptian. So I'm actually finding that one of the tricks to actually decipher pronunciation of names of people and places is to take the Greek and just knock off the S. I know that's going to sound really crazy to you guys, but I actually think you just take the Greek and you knock off the S. So we know in the, like, for instance, the hieroglyphics for Abydos is Abdu, okay, or Abtu or Abdu, depending on how you pronounce that thingy. But that's just based on having those four glyphs, the A, I think it's the A, B, D, and the U. So the A, B, D, and the U sound, or the A, B, D, and the U sound, okay? But in my kind of estimation, there's no reason why the Greeks would have just randomly added the Y. So it's probably very likely the name of the place was Abydos, which then the Greeks would change or transliterate to Abydos, just add the S. But it's likely the name was just Abydos, as opposed to Abdu, which we've reduced it to because we're not sure where the additional vowels go to. And that's a little bit of a shout out to you, Ashley. I know that's a little bit of a side note, but I just want you to kind of like bear that in mind, because I think there's actually a lot of clues to deciphering certain names of places by actually using the Greek, strangely enough. Okay, because there's no reason why they would have just called, for instance, like a king, something completely different. So I was trying to decipher what, you know, like Senusret, for instance, yeah, of the Middle Kingdom. He was originally called Uzurtsun, okay, and then they moved the Usa to the middle, and it became Senusret. And then some people was like, well, his name's Usa Senret, and it's all of it. It's just like, well, actually, the Greeks called him Sesostris. Yeah, so perhaps that name somehow is just translated to Sesostri or Sesostiri or something along those lines. Because there's no protocol for a foreign people taking the name of a king or something and just calling him something completely different, like randomly. Like, it doesn't happen historically. People just call people what they are. And we know that the Greeks added an S, but I don't think they did any more than that. So I'm kind of using that as a method to see if I can decipher how the hieroglyphs would like make names. And actually, I'm having some good success with it. I'm sure I'll do a study on it soon. Yeah, you just said Sheshod Ra. Maybe Ra. Yeah. So it's Ra in. I think Ra is in the Sen Usuret. Yeah, there might be. Yes, there is ignored Ra at the top of Senusuret's cartouche. So it could just be Sesostra. Yeah. So there you go. And then they've just changed it to Ra to Ras or Ris. Yeah. So there you go. So you give me food for thought there. Thanks for that, Yuya. I'll go back and I'll see if I can figure something out from that. Okay. I took a picture of this. This is amazing. Kind of like a 3D car symbol, which is quite novel. So you know that the car is it says soul here, but I'm sure it's supposed to be spirit. But maybe I'm just like splitting hairs of semantics. But the car is a symbol of the spirit, and intended to be the spirit of the divine, whereas the bar would be the soul of man, so to speak, or of the living. The car will be is a depiction of the spirit of the divine. So it says the car was an aspect of the soul that came into being at the moment a person was born, and is sometimes called the double. When a person died, the car continued to live on in the tomb and reanimate the body and the images of the deceased. The symbol for the car consists of 2 raised arms. We have a funeral procession. Let's just have a look at what this is. Okay, so look, have a look here. This is once again restoring to biases. Okay, this is a perfect example. Have a look at this, guys. Okay, really, really perfect example. Look at her arm. Okay, you can quite clearly see target color. In my view, there's too much of it to write it off. Too much of this deep brown to suggest that that wasn't the target color here. Okay, there's clearly a thick layer of brown paint on top. Now, can you see the way the paint kind of runs down the arm? Okay, or it's been rubbed away. Can you see all that, guys? Yeah, that is a result of a chemical process. Yeah, that I wasn't aware of before, but I'm now very, very aware of. That they use chemicals to strip. It's not always manual sanding down. Okay, they have the application of these chemicals as long as, once again, they've agreed that that is not a target color. So what would have happened in this case is they've come across this statue and they're like, woman, not supposed to be brown. Only the men are reddish brown. Women are yellow. So let us strip until we get to yellow. And you can see they're kind of in the process. They're all kind of semi-happy with what they did to the face. After they finished semi-stripping it, they restored the black paint to make it look like this was the target color. This statue is supposed to be brown. This woman is supposed to be brown. This is a complete fiction. But this is just, once again, a nice microcosm illustration of what you will see. You will see this, like, it's exhausting how much you're going to see this if you go to the Cairo Museum. But this is a really good example of how it's done. So then you guys can get an idea of how they literally changed the face of ancient Kemet from dark brown, target color, to yellow. And then they go, oh, well, the woman was painted in yellow. How many women been there? How many been to Egypt? Go see all the artifacts. Oh, the women are yellow. Yeah, that's why the women are yellow, okay? Because you don't accept dark brown women. All right, you restore artifacts, and don't get it twisted. They're not done with this, by the way. Okay, they're not done with this. In fact, if I just go back, I'm not sure if this one even had a label with it. So they're not done with this. Give it a year, 2, 3 years, you go back and this statue will be entirely yellow. They'll repaint her outfit. They'll change her from being naked, which she is maybe in this picture, or wearing some kind of a see-through dress, and they'll just change it to white and they'll restore it all to yellow. And they'll go, oh, this is what it always looked like. This is what it always looked like. So it's nice for us all to see a work in progress, so you can see how those statuettes that we looked at earlier ended up looking like this as opposed to this. Yeah. And then Shabti, I took this one because this is clearly freshly painted. Don't know how to feel about that. This is it looks like a Smurf. It's like, you don't have to touch them. And I get them wanting to see what stuff look like original, but this just feels like tampering when they do stuff like this. I can't appreciate this as a piece of ancient artwork because I know that this is not the way you found it. I know that, so I can't appreciate it. And it's funny because this is Assyrian, so perhaps that's why they've gone for this, this kind of like oxidized iron green. I bet it was probably jet black when they found it, because Osiris, the chosen color for Osiris is normally jet black. And they're like, oh, Osiris is not supposed to be black, he's supposed to be green. Someone get the green paint. Let's correct this. Let's fix this. Another one. Okay, partially on its way to becoming yellow again. All that inconvenient dark brown dirt that they're in the process of cleaning. Look, dark brown, okay? That's darker than me. All right, this is an Egyptian woman. Why do we need to have it rubbed down to the yellow? Or stripped? When I say rubbed down, it could be stripped with chemicals. Why do we need to do that? Why can't we just appreciate it as it is? And then, as you can see the process once again, guys. They always do, after they've kind of done a partial rub down or restoration, they'll get the black paint out. And suddenly we've got this solid black eyeliner, solid black eyelashes, solid black hair. It's like, that's not how you found it, for God's sake. It's really sad. Someone noticed this actually, and they were both doing that kind of like single eye symbolism, okay, which we know they kind of like do in cults today. But there we go. It looks like we have its origins, okay? And you can see that kind of triangle being formed. Now, obviously, this had a positive Kemetic origin. But this is something that obviously has been, I'm not going to say bastardized, but something that has been co-opted in the modern world by people who obviously still understand the power of this symbolism. But look, they have got the one eye showing. That is something. As large as Eye of Ra. I'd say, yeah. Very interesting. Let's move on. So we have a gilded bar statue here. It looks like some restoration has been done because these eyelashes and eyebrows just don't look right. I don't know what's going on there. Wonder if we had a label for this. No label, unfortunately. That's a shame. Let me give a quick shout out to Connie. Thank you very much for the $5 donation. Question: why did the Greeks add an S? I have no idea. Some people said that it's a Semitic trend. It's interesting. I was watching a movie. You know how they do this big cope? Well, I say doing this big cope. It's kind of been done. And I've never agreed with the linguistic view where they've tried their best to separate the languages spoken in Eurasia from the languages spoken in Africa. I think there's enough evidence to say with a good degree of confidence that all language, not just written, because we know the written's already been confirmed, but all language, written and spoken, is a descendant of what Europeans or Eurasians inherited from Africa. I think there's enough evidence to suggest that. But instead, what happened is they came up with their PIE, their Proto-Indo-European, which is the father of all Eurasian languages, which miraculously has this barrier between, where Afro-Asiatic starts and ends. And in my view, it's absolutely ridiculous. There's so many just words in the European lexicon, which you can clearly see descend from, an ancient Egyptian forebear, which they try to kind of like ignore. But anyway, that's an aside. Someone mentioned earlier that it's kind of like a Semitic thing, the S at the end. If in my Instagram, someone mentioned that. I didn't actually mention it, but it was an interesting comment. But I was kind of maybe I was didn't want to sidetrack too much. But I'm just saying that because someone's asked the question. Someone said it might be a Semitic thing, and I know straight away all of you guys, well, Greek's not a Semitic language. So I'm not suggesting Greek is a Semitic language, but I am suggesting that the proto language to the Indo-European languages might be Semitic, or might be another Afro-Asiatic, or might be another African language. I don't think there's this idea of this kind of like separate origin of language for the European continent. I think that's a cope. A papyrus here, which I just kind of captured. Okay, so you got, so I just kind of flicked through so you guys all could appreciate that. Head of Anubis. This is dope. I don't know why I find this this is a wicked artifact. It holds the spirit or the life of the deceased in the afterlife. Do we get enough to read this? Okay, head of god Anubis, possibly worn as a mask by priests of Anubis. That would have been dope. Let me zoom out. Wow. Imagine a priest dressed up there. That'd be dope. Sorry, let me carry on. Anubis was shown as a black canine, or a man with a canine head, as a funerary deity associated with mummification, funerary rituals, and the cemetery. Anubis titles included he who is in the place of embalming and the god of the cemetery. The eyebrows and the whiskers of the mask are gilded. And you can just about see that there. Amazing. Okay, so this is falcon mummy. The ancient Egyptians mummified animals as well as humans. Mummified animals were given offerings to gods. So what are they saying? There's a falcon actually in here. That would be sick. X-rays show that the mummy contains only part of a falcon's wing. Perhaps the rest was lost. So, whoa, this actually contains a falcon. And they've kind of like shaped it like Heru, which is crazy. Wow, that's something. Why would it only contain part of a falcon's wing? What kind of a mystery is going on there, man? See, you never know what they'll be doing in the ancient world. There's something more to that story. There's something more to this. Why would they mummify a falcon in the body of what looks like, yeah, there's something going on there. Now this is inside some of the sarcophagi. Okay. So we have a depiction of Ma'at. Okay, I think with the feather on the head and the wings. Okay. I think there's been some restoration done here, if I'm going to be totally honest with you. And I'm still leaning on the fact that we have painted gills with just some of the remnants shown there, maybe. I mean, this looks relatively messy for something that was drawn so beautifully, which makes you think once again there's been a bit of a recoloring job. But anyway, it doesn't matter. We can still appreciate how beautiful this is as an artifact. I'm not going to go back and forth about that right now. I'm just going to hide your comment. Thank you very much for the donation, Connie. And another one. Okay. So hands missing on this. Ah, let me this. I think this is an interesting one. I think I'm getting a bit of remembrance about something. So you look at this coffin here, and you'll notice that the hands and the face are missing. Okay, hands and the face are missing here, which I thought was odd enough. And obviously that can happen. Maybe some tomb raiders have come along, seen the gilded hands and the gilded face, but oh, that's worth a bit. That's worth a pretty penny. I'll take that. Okay, we'd maybe able to melt the gold off it and get some money for it. Possible, yes. But check this out. Coffin set of Nescons, okay? 21st dynasty. I took a photo of this coffin cover. Once again, have a look here. Remember what I talked to you about the painted guild? Yeah? This is going to make you laugh, guys. So remember what I said about the painted guild? This is a perfect example of painted guild, okay? So I was like, well, if they got a photo of this exists somewhere. And I was like to myself, where the hell is this? Why aren't they showing this beautiful artifact? They've shown like the inner coffins. I want to see this. This is beautiful. You can see the hands there, beautiful brown painted guild. I was like, where the hell is it? Check this out, guys. Check this out, yeah? It's facing the wall. One second, I'm going to show you guys. So I'm going to go back. Yeah, so I think this is it here, and they've just made it face the wall, so you can see the inside of it here, but you can't see the outside of it. So they just made it face the wall. So the part that you want to see, you can't see it because it's just facing the wall. So I'm looking around this whole place, like, where is that? Why are you showing me all these other parts? And the part that I really want to see, which is the cover, you can't see. I'm like, this is really, really weird. So this is kind of like the weird stuff that they do in this museum. Okay, you're gonna present a coffin where you're gonna see the inside, this, that, and the other, but then the actual part that you want to see, you got it facing the wall. Now we got this one, coffin of Ahmose the First, 18th dynasty. I don't think that is that it. No, see, that doesn't even look like a finished one. Is this the one? Let me just quickly make sure I got the right one. So let's make sure I got it here. Yeah, I think this is coffin of Ahmose the First. So this must be someone, he must have been moved, because obviously this is not the quality of a ruler's coffin. It says here, Ahmose the First, founder of the 18th dynasty, his coffin was originally decorated with a feathered pattern and covered with gold foil, inlaid with semi-precious stones. These were removed by ancient robbers and replaced with the yellow and blue paint when the coffin was restored and reburied. So who in DB 320, in year 8 of the 21st dynasty, high priest in King Penugem the First. The redecorated lid of the coffin has a pectoral plaque on the chest with the cartouches of the king and a figure of Egypt's state god Amun-Ra. The interior is undecorated. The king's original tomb was probably located in Dra Abu el Nagar on the west bank at Thebes. So we're seeing allegedly a restored coffin. This is definitely not a coffin box fit for a king, but they said it was repainted blue and yellow by priests a long time ago. You know, I'm going to take that with a pinch of salt. Okay. Then we have the internal display of a coffin there. And we have some more gilded coffins. I'm going to zoom in and see if there's any. Yeah. Well, it looks like that could either be worn down or that could be some of the brown that I was talking about that exists on top of the guild. Remember to keep an eye out for that. I'm telling you, it's a pretty consistent trait. You can kind of see some remnants there. I'll go back. That's quite an interesting piece there. So a coffin set of Jed Tar If Unk, a prophet of Amun, district chief, was the last person to be buried in DB 320 in year 11 of Sheshonk I by Euput, high priest of the god Amun. The coffins with gilded face and hands were reused with the name and titles of the original owner Nessie Shu Enipet left in places and those of Jed Patar Euf Ankh added. Symbols and images associated with Osiris, god of the afterworld. Let's carry on. Mummies are long gone to answer the question. Someone's saying where the mummies at. They are obviously long gone. Okay. Yeah, I think all of these have got the flavor of restoration about them. Once again, how much of this was restored correctly or in line with biases? This looks like a second coffin here. Now this, I think I took a picture of this just to show you, this is what hieroglyphs look like when they're done properly. You know, there's no part of me here that would suggest that this is anything but original hieroglyphs. This is what they're supposed to look like when they're done properly. When hieroglyphs are carved properly, it literally looks like they've been done by a machine. It looks like they clearly had some kind of a stenciling method that was carried out in layers. But look at that. It looks like it's been done by CNC. Absolutely amazing. But that's kind of like the level that I expect to see. Particularly for anything that's kind of the noble glass and upwards. I can't remember where this is lying down, I think. I only got one photo of that. It's an amazing artifact. Should have more. So these are some of the tools. Bavarian period. It's pre-dynastic. It's just interesting to see some of the tools and pottery that was around that phase. Then we have this wonderful wildlife scene. You can see the papyrus plants. It just says marsh scene there. I wonder if I've got there we go. Sorry, let's just have a little appreciation for the drip. Woo! Sea foam! Sorry, let's keep it moving. I know I just earned about 5 unsubscribes there. I don't care. Marsh scene. Scenes from nature became key decorative elements in funerary temples in Dynasty 5. These images showed nature and the king's position in it as divine ruler, as well as the importance of the sun god, Ra, who was responsible for the continuation of the natural world. This panel, carved in bas relief, comes from the mortuary complex of Usakaf. So yeah, Dynasty 5, it shows a flock of birds and a butterfly in a papyrus thicket. A pied kingfisher hovers above, waiting to attack some fish, while a hoopoe, is that hippo? Hoopoe? No. Hoopoe, scared ibis, night heron, and a purple gallinule balance on the papyrus umbels. Yeah, so you can see, let's have a quick look again here. Lovely piece. They're really good at these. In the Old Kingdom, you see so many of these kind of like wildlife reliefs. They're amazing. How in touch with nature they were. Okay. Little plaque here. Okay, not sure if this is just an appreciation for the cat. Actually, is that a depiction of Serapis, perhaps? We can see our native Anga cattles or Shanga cattles that we have. I think this is a skeleton of a dog, baboon. Bear with me one moment as I quickly just catch up to where I'm at. We're doing quite well. All right, let's carry on zooming through. Oh, let's go back. So it looks like a, did I get that there? Hawk. It says hawk. I'm not going to read that for now. I think this is a mummified crocodile we have here. You've spoken about the fact that the ancient Egyptians domesticated the West African crocodile. If you haven't seen my my little mini documentary on that subject, you've got to go back a couple of years, but it's good. Watch it. It's really interesting, quite informative. So you can see some mummified crocodiles there. There's a temple in South Komombo dedicated to crocodiles. So a lot of animal mummification, I think what we call taxidermy, used to take place in ancient Kemet. I think that's another baboon again. This is harrowing, considering how many thousands of years this is. And look at the preservation, that's crazy, isn't it? This baboon died thousands of years ago. How crazy is that? Mummified dog as well. The ram. Khnum, I think is the name of the ram god. Khnum. I think he's actually, one of his epithets was the Great Black Khnum, similar to Osiris. He had the epithet the Great Black. There's a sacred ram on the tag there. You see a lot of you see a massive switch, I think, in the 19th dynasty, just after the Ramesside era. His sons switch over to a lot of you see a lot of ram iconography suddenly appear, kind of like you don't see any of it in the 18th dynasty or the early 19th, and then as soon as kind of like the Ramesses II's rule is over and kind of like its sons, you could see a lot of that ram iconography. which is interesting. It makes me, I start to think about perhaps that was a change in the solstice to Aries. So maybe from Taurus to Aries, potentially. I kind of think a lot of these things are linked. That's why I'm thinking along those lines. I definitely think. Some canopics here, canopic jars, which you normally use for storing organs in the afterlife. And even they had the hieroglyph for the human heart was a canopic jar. Canopic jars from Nevis bulls. So you can see here, liver, lung, stomach, intestines. Interesting. Okay, so this image was taken from above. I'm trying to remember who this is. I didn't get the plaque till later. I do have another photo of it. I'm trying to remember who this is. This is a colossal statue, by the way. So this statue is like almost double the size of a normal person. So it's a massive, massive statue. Very, very impressive. So you can see it there. I did get the plaque, but a little bit later. Now this one's interesting because this is one. Do you remember I did a short about this one? I'm not sure if so many of you remember this, and I restored the color, which I said you can clearly see where the color's been. I thought initially had been rubbed away, but now I'm learning that they definitely like to use chemicals to do the job. So you can kind of see the original brown paint. I had loads of people say, "Oh no, that's not original brown paint. It's just blah blah blah." Kind of like, there's no pink people in Kemet. Give me a flipping joke. Break. And then the confirmation of the original complexion is right here on the hands. Okay, so my restoration was spot on because you can see the original color here. Okay, there's the original color. Okay, brown. And they got rid of the brown on the face and didn't bother with the hands, but they used chemical to peel or at least to run the color away, and then it's kind of like rubber. You can see the work that's been done to kind of like get it down to this what's his name? What Carter would call flesh colored. Let's get it back to flesh color. Flesh color. We need to get it back to flesh color. Yeah, which is basically their way of saying Araby white. Okay. They use the chemicals to get rid of that. Okay, but you can see here the original color. That's the color it's supposed to be. In fact, let me see if I can quickly find my restoration. I used a bit too much wood grain because I thought it was like a wood color, but I'm seeing now that it was just painted. But it shouldn't take me long to find it. It'll be somewhere. Just got to remember where I keep my restoration work. See if I can find it. Ah, here you go. Amos Meritamen. That's who this is. So I'll show you what the restored version looked like. I've actually got a version that's less shiny. But let me quickly share this with you guys. Boom. There we go. Is it showing? Okay, it's down here. Let's get it up on the screen here. So there it is. It's a little bit too shiny because I thought it was more wood grain, but you get a feel for what it would have looked like. Although if I did it now, I'd make it look more painted, but you get a feel for what it would have looked like. Let me see if actually my later versions are better. There you go. That nose is a bit better. I wasn't happy with that nose. Here we go. This is better. So this is what I think it would have looked like minus the grain, but this is the brown. This is the color that it was originally before they decided to attack it with their peeling process. So something close to that. is what it would originally look like. Quite annoying that they did that, to be honest with you. But there you go. It's part of Egyptology, isn't it? So yeah, anyway, the hand is there confirming what we all knew already. Someone said a Sudanese face. I would say I don't disagree with that at all. I think I did a video because to get it on the, there we go, there, because you can see how high. So I want you guys to see, like, they've put it in a box. It's really hard to, so get those photos that you just saw. It's really hard to see on top. They've done it so you can only see it from the side. So I've had put my phone up on one of those thingy majiggies so that you guys can see it properly, you know? Anyway, I'm going to skip ahead. Okay, so some pottery artifacts there. These are mud brick molds, I believe, that we've got here. They're still using exactly the same way. They were using them in Nubia right up until the flood. They're probably still using them now, to be totally honest with you. We have the mud brick molds there. Different carving tools. Then they've got that kind of like that hand hoe thing that they use. You see it quite a lot. Some weaved artifacts there. You know what I never found? This is going to be really disappointing to some of you guys. I never found the wig room. I don't know if they'd closed it or something, but I did go around the museum twice looking for it. So I think when I went there, they've either moved the wigs because they are moving a whole load of stuff, or they closed the wig room. So I know a few of you have asked me, where did you manage to get the wigs? And my answer is no. I didn't manage to get any pictures. I got a couple of pictures of like a couple of wigs, but in general, no. So this is the mummy mask of Yuya, which is, see, the Yuya and Tuya mummy masks I find probably the most bizarre. Oh, by the way, remember what I said about painted gilding? Do you guys agree with me yet? Yeah, do you guys agree? Can we see the painted gild there? So the idea of just being a, you know, gold, oh, we just found the gold mask, and then that's an illusion. You guys can see this gild was painted. Yeah, I'm not capping there. You can clearly see that this used to be brown. Okay, particularly nobility. Okay, they would have a gold, thick layer of gold, and then they would paint over the gold with the target color of brown, and it would give you this metallic look, metallic hue. Okay, you guys can see it. You'll see it all through. Whenever you see a properly gilded artifact, you will see this brown layer of paint on top. Okay, and that would be obviously very, very, very consistent with all of Yuya's artwork. All of Yuya's artwork. Yuya's depicted deep dark brown in multiple artworks. Multiple artworks. So, but yeah, I still find it hard to reconcile this artifact because feature-wise, I'm going to be totally frank with you, he's got really consistent features that are not shown in this artifact. This doesn't look like. And it's the same thing with Yuya as well. It's like they've got very similar mummy masks, but doesn't look like any of their other artifacts. So normally mummies masks don't even look like artifacts, to be honest with you, apart from obviously in the case, don't like artwork, apart from the case of Tutankhamun, where his mummy mask clearly looks like all of his artwork. A lot of them don't look like them. Like, for instance, my Hepri's mummy and golden carton doesn't look anything like depictions of him or his mummy. And it's the same thing with Yuya and Tuya. So it's a bit of a confusing one here, but it is what it is. This is theirs. But I still stand by, like I said, the painted guild. I think this is a thing that you won't hear reflected in Egyptology. They won't mention the fact that a load of gilded artifacts have got a layer of brown paint on top, because they just ignore brown paint. Like literally brown paint. If you if you want to record a secret message, yeah, for the future, write it in brown paint on an Egyptian artifact, and no one will ever see it. Okay. So if you ever want to just buy an Egyptian artifact, write your message in brown paint, and then give it back to museums, whatever, and no one will ever see it, because brown paint just doesn't exist to the eyes of most Egyptologists. Yeah, they just don't acknowledge the existence of brown paint. It's actually quite funny. Anyway, let me carry on. So here's the artifact from the side. Once again, it's a lovely artifact. Don't get it twisted. It just doesn't look like him. The reason I say that is because Yuya's got this really distinctive long nose. He's got like this really kind of long, beaky kind of nose. Those of you who've seen the reconstruction I did of him, that's quite consistent across. He's got quite a few artworks that depict him the same. And this is kind of like a short, stubby face, round, really wide face. So it's just, I have a hard time reconciling this with him. But yeah, it is what it is. It's what it is. And here's Tuya's golden mask. It's kind of like the same issue with hers, kind of reconciling. But once again, guys, can we see what I said about the brown on gild? Okay, brown paint on top of gild. So now you have to go back to imagining what these looked like originally, okay, when they were brown, fully brown, okay, metallic brown. That's what it should have been. Okay, and they've been, I don't think it's happened by artifice either. I think when they found them, they were brown. Knowing what Egyptologists are like, they've likely just applied chemicals to kind of like peel the color off as much as possible and get back to the gold. That's my thoughts. Quick shout out to Mr. K. He says, we have Yuya and Tuya's DNA. Southern African, 34.48. African Great Lakes, 35.53. Tropical West Africa, 8.91. Horn of Africa, 0.79. Google DNA Tribes Digest. Indeed, I think I've published those myself and done multiple documentaries with those results. Yes, Yuya and Tuya's DNA, both very, very, very African. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's appreciated. Shout out to you, Rock Evan, for your £1.50 donation, or $1.50. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. It's much appreciated. And shout out everyone in the chat. Let's carry on. So there you go, 2 years golden mummy mask there. It says here, gilded cartonnage mask of Tuya. This gilded plaster mask once covered the head of the mummy of Tuya, mother of Queen T, Pharaoh Amenhotep's III's wife. That's Queen T, not Tuya. Her wig consists of long, straighted hair passing behind the ears. Oh, shut up. Look at them trying to describe long, straighted hair. Those are, listen, yeah, those are friggin' locks or twists, okay? This is not this is beyond you, okay? But this actually looks like a head covering. If you look at it from the front, it looks more likely that she has a head covering, and covering hair that has been plaited or locked, like all ancient Egyptian mummies when they're found. Them trying their best to long straightened hair, whatever, man. You guys don't know. Egyptologists just leave all of the hair talk to Africans, okay? please, yeah, just that you're out of your realm of comfortability talking about the hair of the ancient Egyptians. You don't know what time it is. Okay, if you want to know about ancient Egyptian hair, come and see me or another African scholar, and they will tell you what ancient Egyptian hair style is being portrayed. Talking about friggin' long straighty hair. Shut up, man. The mask was discovered broken in two pieces and was restored in 1982. What does restore mean? At that time, the restorer partially removed the linen gauze originally glued to the mask, exposing the marvelous face of this lady with her exquisite smile, enlivened eyes inlaid with blue glass. So we're getting a picture of how maybe the gild was removed here. Maybe. So it sounds like something was kind of like peeled off the front. Okay. Okay, that was interesting. Let's see what it says about the Mask of Yuya here, actually, the one we looked at earlier. So, spell 151b of the Book of the Dead describes the funerary mask as an indispensable element for the protection of the head of the deceased. It was placed immediately over the head of Yuya's mummy. It shows him wearing a long wig. Long wig of what? Straightened hair. Long wig of straightened hair. The eyebrows and eyes are inlaid with blue glass. And by the way, blue glass does not necessitate blue eyes. Blue and black are exactly the same family. Okay, dark blue was actually used as a preferential way to display blue black. I've got a documentary about that. The ancient Egyptians, for the ancient Egyptians, blue or deep blue sat within the black color family, and so they would use it interchangeably. In fact, blue was a depiction of the truest form of black. He wears an elaborate collar that extends beneath his wig. The exact portrayal of Yuya's facial features achieved here made it possible for his soul to recognize him and return to his mummified body, thus ensuring his resurrection. Interessanto. Let's move on. So we have this beautiful throne, or chair, I should say. I'm going to guess this is belonging to Tuya, because that looks like a kind of, that's a pose that Tuya was very, although we just saw Amani Erdis with this same pose, but that was one of her preferred poses. You can see it there. And then she's flanked by what looks like her children. So it looks like she's flanked by Tia and maybe someone else. Let's have a look what the plaque says, if we have a plaque. Look at that. Imagine before this is kind of like lost all its color, probably looked kind of similar to the golden throne of Tut. What a shame we don't have it in color anymore. But once again, I'm going to lean on the fact that this once was in color. And actually the golden throne of King Tut is a perfect example of what I'm actually trying to communicate to you guys about painted gild. Okay, the golden throne of Tut is a completely gold throne that has paint on top of it. Okay, so just remember that. Lovely piece there. Okay, gilded wooden chair. Let's have a look. This elegant chair was thinly coated with gesso and then gilded. Okay, they haven't spoken about the fact that it would have been painted, and I would argue it's almost very obvious that it was painted at some stage and it's lost its color. The scene on the front of the backrest depicts Queen Taye seated on an elaborately decorated armchair on a papyrus boat. She is holding a flail in one hand and an Ankh sign on the other. Her title name, the Great Royal Wife, Taye, to the right of her headdress. Underneath the chair is a cat with a raised tail. Two princesses, yes, it was her kids being shown. Two princesses are shown. Sitamun in the front of the queen, offering her lotuses. The second princess is offering an ornate fan with lotuses and flowers behind the queen. The two arms have an open work design of Bess and Taweret. So yeah, it's the two daughters of Taye being shown here. I'm trying to see, oh yeah, that's where I would have seen her cartouche. Very hard to read. I wonder if there's a clearer one anywhere. Did I get a zoom in? I didn't. And we have a chariot of Yuya here. Chariots, the racing car of the ancient world, were the preferred mode of transport for royalty and the elite in New Kingdom Egypt. They played an important role in warfare, hunting, and to a lesser extent, transport. Yuya's chariot, a gift from his son-in-law Amenhotep III, is one of the only 8 chariots surviving from ancient Egypt. The wooden frame is covered with gilded wood and leather, and the small wheels have red leather tires. Due to the relatively small size of the wheels, the floor and the body lowers allowing for easier access, suggesting the chariot was designed for an elderly person. The yoke is too short and wrongly shaped to be drawn by horses and could have been hand-drawn or maybe pulled by young cattle. This is a curious feature since Yuya was closely associated with horses, as his title, Master of the Horses, attests. The elaborate decorations suggest that the vehicle might have also been used in ceremonies. Interesting. Someone said, wait, it had wheels. They're really pushing this African didn't have any wheels narrative, even though we got, you know, prehistoric cave art showing wheels, you know, in the Sahara. But no, Africans didn't have any wheels. Like these people are just flipping relentless with their ridiculousness. And the thing is, like, even me as a historical enthusiast, I would say I don't even feel the need to address that kind of trolling from Eurocent. Just like, if you want to believe that Africans didn't have any wheels, fine, whatever. We still taught you how to write. So if us having no wheels makes you feel better, that's cool. Okay, we didn't invent the wheel. Yeah, we still taught you how to write. Yeah. And there were still pyramids, you know, in Africa before you guys knew how to build a mud hut. So whatever, man. Whatever floats your boat. So these artifacts clearly not Egyptian. Are we back in the Greek area again? I think I took one big photo of it all. So yeah, this is the closest that I got to wigs. Okay, these kind of like obviously straw or something like that being used here to make these rope. I'm not even sure what these were. These were really bizarre. I'm not sure if they were labeled either. But I took a picture because some of them mirror some of the African hairstyles. But it's either they've been encrusted with mud and they were originally, and they are hair, which is a possibility, or they're made out of rope or something like that. It's really weird, but they look like clearly resembling the African hairstyles that the ancient Egyptians would wear. Let me give a quick shout out to Marina Seller. Thank you very much for your $2. It's much appreciated. No comment. Let's see if you left a comment anywhere. Oh, she has left a comment. It said you have taught me to see what's real. Oh, that's a blessing. I'm glad. That's all we can do is just help and teach one another as much as possible. Because we ain't gonna get truth from them, that's for sure. Appreciate you. Thank you. I can't remember what these were in reference to. Sometimes I think there was lots of different stuff going on at this stage where there's lots of kind of like small cabinets, and I was just kind of like walking through. I'm on the first floor, by the way, at this point, and I'm just kind of like snapping away every now and then when I see things that are interesting. Wooden sandals were made specifically for burial with the deceased. We do have later examples of wooden sandals from settlements. There's a large variety in shape and design. They are common in the Middle Kingdom. So this is these are from Jebelin and not dated. So just a variety of wooden sandals. It'd be interesting to see where all the deceased are, where they got these sandals from, because it's quite a large selection here. These Aladdin looking slippers. It's interesting that they seem to have originated in ancient Kemet. I'm not going to read all that if that's okay, guys, but I'll pause it here so you guys can pause it when if you're viewing from home. Move it along a little bit there, so it's not, my picture's not blocking it. There. I'm going to skip over now. This one gives me really strong Black Roman vibes. Yeah, I get really strong indigenous Etruscan / Black Roman. That's what I'm getting from this image over here. In fact, you know what's weird? I don't even remember taking this photo. I'm looking at it now. I'm like, whoa, this is pretty dope. That's definitely a Black Roman. Oh gosh, it's gone. It's gone now. It might be a Greek actually. Looking at the next thing, but it just gives me Black Roman vibes. That's like a kind of like a typical Black European kind of phenotype there. Very short nose. I can't remember what this was. Oh, do I have a little description here? Mummy labels. Mummy labels are tags often attached to the deceased during the Greco-Roman period. So these are labels attached to the deceased during the Greek period. This became necessary as the number of embalmed individuals grew, which made identifying necessary in order to avoid mistakes. The tags were made of wood or limestone and often had a hole for tying them to the mummy. The inscriptions were mainly written in ink in either Demotic or Greek, with the occasional use of hieroglyphs and hieratic. The inscriptions include the name and age at a time of death, the deceased hometown, and the date of burial rather than the date of death. Interesting. Interesting. So if it contains the burial date, and these are probably administrative, like burial tags to be able to look after tombs, to organize tombs, as opposed to kind of like being some kind of a tombstone or something like that. Very interesting regardless. Some pics of ropes and stuff like that. Pestle and mortar. These look like the ones I got on my shelf. Made out of stone. And then there's that kind of like thing, again, that tool. Someone tell me, I know this is obviously used for plowing and stuff like that, but there's actually a hieroglyph that matches that as well. I'm trying to see, yeah, the mer hieroglyph. The word mer in hieroglyphs is this shape, this kind of like A form, which is interesting. So you can see it there again. Some tools, some more figurines. It's amazing how many of these figurines there are. There are literally, I've probably seen hundreds of them. So many of these. And there's the Korah. Okay, it's really interesting actually. So this is the symbol for the word nether in ancient Kemetic, which Egyptologists have translated it to the word to mean beautiful, okay, or beauty. I don't think it means beauty, okay. I think it means pleasurable. The reason I distinguish between the words beauty and pleasurable is because the symbol, and Budge says this in his Dictionary of Hieroglyphics, is the West African kora, okay, which is this kind of like ancient kind of like harp-like instrument, okay, which has a distinctive very round base, okay, and a long neck, okay, and actually has a head as well. Now Budge calls it the West African kora, okay. They've since tried to say it's not a kora, but it clearly is a kora, okay. The wide base is something that actually isn't found that often. They've struggled to find examples of it, okay, but it's very often found in West Africa. Now, why do I mention this? Is not the point. The point is not I'm not kind of like saying, okay, this, that, and the other it's a West African instrument. That's neither here nor there. Let's move aside from that. The point being is the kora produces a sound. Okay, its purpose is not to look at. So you have to think with every single ancient Kemetic hieroglyph or symbol, what is being depicted is very relevant to the word that it conveys. Always. It's never a case of whether it's using this random shape or we don't know what the shape means. The shape has a significance to the message that's being conveyed. Okay. So what would a kora produce? It would produce a sound that brings healing, brings pleasure, it's a pleasurable sound. Okay. Yes, you can convey it. If you're talking about, you can say you appear pleasurable, in which case you're talking about beauty. But then in another sense, you could say something else is pleasurable, but they've translated it just succinctly to the word beauty, which I don't think is the case. It's a broader term that talks about a something basically imbuing something positive onto people. Okay, so that's what the word nefer translates to. It's not beauty, it's pleasure, it's bliss, it's kind of something that's more wide reaching than just beauty, which is something that's purely aesthetic. So like for instance Nefertiti, which they translate to the beautiful one has come, I would say it more translates to the one who brings great pleasure has come, something along those lines, the one whose presence who brings great pleasure has come, as opposed to the beautiful one has come. So I contend with a lot of the translations, because the English language is very simplistic. You have to understand that, and there are a lot of terms in African languages which do not have a direct translation in English, which require whole sentences to translate, loads of them, and I believe the word nefer is one of them. So anyway, I just want to share that because you've got two images of this kind of like kora instrument that is present in this image, which is quite interesting. And that's your nefer symbol right here, your beauty symbol. So I'll keep scrolling through. So you have this symbol, this thing here. I wonder what this is. Oh, it says idiophone. So this is, I think it's called the glyph is called the sekem or the segem. And I was always wondered what that is actually. Let's have a look, see what it says. So the sistrum is a percussion. So it's an instrument. I thought so. So it's an instrument probably similar to kind of like a tuning fork, made with a U-shaped frame set on a handle. The holes or the rings of its two vertical terminals are looped together with horizontal wires, and then a thin metal filled of small round buttons. See, I think that there was a lot of, this is me now just totally speculating, but I think there was a lot of technology linked to the manipulation of sound in ancient Kemet. And these look like priestly instruments, i.e. instruments that were used for scientific purposes, maybe to move things around. So that's what I would translate the use of these for. I'll put myself out on a limb and say I definitely vibe with the whole ancient Egyptians knew how to manipulate sound for scientific purposes. I've always, I would say thought, but I'm going to say known that to be the case. And I know that, yeah, you have to kind of look into it, but this might be one of the instruments to do so. The frame contains at least two crossbars, sometimes holding metal rings and discs, which move and slide when the instrument is shaken to produce a clanking or jangling sound. They can be made of metal as well as other materials like wood, ceramic, and faience. Sistra are usually associated with a similar instrument known as the Monat necklace, and the rattling sound produced was thought to settle or appease the gods. Very interesting. So you see a few of them there. That's really interesting. And we have all these kind of hand shapes, almost like boomerangs. And then this bas relief. dancing scene, which is wonderful. You've got these girls with the side plait and the top plaits. Those bowls in their hand, are those kind of like rattle shakers maybe? Looks like the men are shacking out as well. Definitely some kind of celebration going on there. Well, this is a very good question you ask here, Connie. Connie just asked which, oh, you're asking someone else, so I've just jumped in. So which mummies had straight hair? I've only seen Kenki or very curly. I will tell you now, Yuya. And once again, this is, I think the hair is straight a lot of the times due to compression. Okay, the way it's been treated, it's been wrapped and it's been compressed. But I can tell you now, Yuya and even Fuya's hair were both relatively straight. Once again, I'd say a lot of it's due to compression. And obviously we know that a lot of Africans have straight hair. So it's not like it's outside the realms of the phenotypic capabilities. I looked at multiple mummies. I'm actually going to do a live stream very, very soon. I went to a museum called the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization, which contains many of the New Kingdom mummies in it. So 18th and 19th dynasty mummies are in there. Unfortunately, they don't let you take any photos. However, they can't stop you from taking notes. And I took copious notes when I was there. So I'm going to do a live stream when I take you through every single one of the mummies I found. And I'm going to describe to you exactly what I saw. It's got to be a really insightful live stream. I might even schedule that next because I'm bored of going through these museum artifacts, and then we could take a break for this to kind of come back to it later. So maybe that'll be the next live stream that we do. But yeah, watch that and I'll be able to take you through what each mummy kind of looks like. I wrote copious notes about hair texture, complexion, pose, head shape, everything. I covered everything so that I can kind of really convey to you, okay, because the photos don't do it justice, don't do the mummies justice. When you see them like for yourself, it will knock you off your chair, honestly. And let's keep this moving. Some more artifacts there. Bells and percussion, cymbals. 1 second, let's see what that video was. I don't, the videos take a long time to load, so I've skipped over some of them. Okay, we are coming on to the mummies of Yuya and Tuya soon. So you're going to be able to see for yourself what they look like. I took a couple of pictures. Yuya and Tuya were only two of the, because they're in this museum, I was actually able to take photos of them. And by the way, they want you to take photos of Yuya and Tuya. I'm going to get to that in a moment. Okay, they want you to take photos of them because they think that Yuya and Tuya, in spite of the fact that someone who, I can't remember who it was, who posted the genetic data, shows you that Yuya and Tuya have overwhelmingly African DNA. They think that the fact that they have this kind of like compressed hair is some kind of a flex. I wish Nydia was still online because Nydia's done reconstructions of both Yuya and Tuya. I've done Yuya actually as well, and Tuya. But she's done forensic ones based on their mummies. You know me, I don't really do, I try to kind of avoid doing the forensic reconstructions, and I focused on the artwork. Ironically and interestingly, our Yuya's look almost like twins, which I thought was really cool. Because I was like, actually, you've done a reconstruction based on his face, his mummy. I've done a reconstruction based on his artwork, and we've approximated almost identical outcomes, which I thought was really, really cool. But we're going to come on to that in a moment anyway. Let's carry on skipping through here. So these are ancient Egyptian mirrors, allegedly. And I'd really like to know how these worked. Because obviously they are, maybe, I think, is it possible that they were gilded and the gilding's been all completely stripped away? But yeah, these are mirrors. Mirrors of polished metals will be found in 6th dynasty tombs. However, the evidence for the use of reflective minerals, such as mica, being used in the pre-dynastic period, where they usually where they're usually found placed in the hands or by the feet of the deceased. The word for mirror in ancient Egypt was ankh. Really? Which is also the word for life. That's interesting. From the earliest times, the shape of the hand mirror does indeed imitate an ankh sign, which it does. That's undeniable. But I didn't know the word for mirror was actually ankh. That's very interesting. Here's what's interesting as well. Look at all of these mirror shapes. Notice how the once again it's leaning on the fact that we talk about the ankh being a depiction of the cattle. Look how all of them kind of like fold down here, like kind of like the flopping of cattle ears. So even in this kind of like mirror type form, it looks like the head of a cattle where we have the horns and the kind of ears flopping downwards. But that's interesting because I didn't know that ankh was also the word for mirror. Egyptian mirrors generally consist of three parts. The mirror disc can be made of highly polished copper or bronze alloy, but sometimes gold or silver. The disc is usually flat and has a sharp tang in order to connect it to a handle. An umbel, usually in the shape of papyrus flowers, connects the mirror disc to its handle and is normally made from wood, ivory, bone, horn, or metal alloys. The handle, which can be made of various materials, including wood, stone, ivory, horn, metal, or clay. Mirrors had a practical function, but also were considered to have religious connections to both the sun god Ra, Hathor, and the goddess of love and beauty. So Hathor, the goddess of love and beauty's horns enclosed the sun disk, whose horns enclosed the womb, the ball of dung from the scarab. So I kind of disagree with Egyptologists there on that point as well. I don't believe it was the sun disk. But anyway, that's an aside. So yeah, what do you think of this mirror collection? I thought that was very interesting. Some artifacts here. Are these dolls? Wonderful artifacts once again. Long there's your straighty flowy hair. Straight up afros, man. Come on, man. Get out of town, man. Ancient Egyptians knew what time it was with the hair. Okay, always based on afro hairstyles. Wonderful artifacts. Okay, I think when we get to, are we near to, I want to see if we're near to a certain point yet. Yes, we're very close. I just want to get through Yuya and Tuya stuff, and then we'll wrap it up for the day. So I'm really close to Yuya and Tuya stuff, and then we'll wrap up for the day. Let me just quickly hide this message on the screen. Where are we? Shout out to Macy. Oh, you made this half an hour ago. My God, sorry about that, Macy. So what's crazy is people claiming the history of Kemet that occurred 3,000 years before they invaded in 639 AD. Yeah, it is crazy. Crazy and a bit desperate. What's crazy is how much tampering they're willing to do to get it looking like them. Sorry I missed that, Macy. Appreciate you. Thank you very much for your $5 donation. Okay, we got some artifacts there in the show. And let's carry on. Some ancient Egyptian dolls. This is interesting. Not sure what period those are. They look like they're like from ages ago. Give me a little bit of knock vibes, don't they? Almost with that kind of like African stylization with exaggerated features. A few beautiful ones. Yeah, these are very interesting. Let me rotate this. Not sure who that is, but clearly very African phenotype there. Like, well, when I say African, I mean indisputably so. Sure, no one would argue about that. That looks like a bow. Cartouche here. Ra Min Ma'at. Min Ma'at Ra. Don't know what that's in reference to. Oh, so we have Neb Tawi, Lord of the Two Lands. Ra Min Ma'at, Lord of the Two Lands. That's what that says. And this is what I was saying about the kind of like the hieroglyphs always representing something. So the symbol for Neb was similar to the symbol for Nub. So it's the pan. So the symbol for Nub, which means gold, was the gold smelting pan on the stands. So you see the gold smelting pan on the stands with actually the heat underneath it. Yeah. That's what gives you the symbol for gold. Now the symbol for Lord was just the pan by itself without the stand. So in my mind, it's symbolizing the person of authority. Because when you think about it, the person who's in charge is the one who holds the gold. Okay, so their symbol for Lord or master or any is the pan. Okay, so the pan symbolizing I'm the person of authority here. And then obviously if it was a woman, it would be Neb with a T to feminize it. So it'd be Neb T. But once again, the symbol has some relevance to what we're talking about. This flat line means land. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to explain why they've chosen a line, a flat line to mean land. Two lines, we've got Tawi. So Neb Tawi. So Lord of the Two Lands. Let's move on. There's the video of some of the tools there. I'm not going to skip over that. Some more what looks to be colored guild, but I'm going to see what this was. I'm trying to remember what these were. Oh, did I not take a picture of the something to do with Yuya and Tuya? What are these? What are these? Body brace? I think this might have been the body. Yeah, these looks like it would have been the body brace that would have been on the mummy. So this looks like it would have been wrapped around the mummy. Oh, they didn't leave anything, did they? To where it's supposed to be. And this is a bed with, it looks like Bes, the ancient Egyptian god Bes at the head of the bed. Oh, well, that'd be in the foot. And then we have the crocodile god with the, is it Khonsu? Someone remind me what the name of this god is. I think it's Khonsu. I could be wrong. No, I think I'm wrong there. Anyway, let me move on. I'm sure someone will tell me the name of that god on the. So here we go. This is the mummy of Tuya. Okay. Now here's what's really interesting. Tuya's hair has gotten exponentially more blonde than it was before. And I wanted to show you this, guys, because this is really hard. It was really hard to get the photo. You'll see here this blue light that's shining on her head. That is being shone on her head by the Egyptologists. This was like their party piece moment. It's like, everybody gather around, gather around, gather around, gather around. And all the people come around and say, this mummy Tuya, look. And then they shine a blue light on their head to make the hair look as blonde as possible. Look, this her, take picture. And they're all so proud of the fact that this mummy has blonde hair. Okay. Now, any moron could see that this is peroxide blonde. Okay. I don't think there's anyone living on the planet who has that color hair. Okay, this is the result. This is like, you know, electric blonde to the root. So it's clearly some kind of chemical reaction that's caused the hair to do that. Now, do they care? No. Okay, this is their party piece. Look, Egyptians not black. All they care about is not black. They don't care that there's no Egyptian who has their hair like this. They don't care that this is not a reflection of them and is more a reflection of super Nordic Nords than them. They don't care as long as not black. But the point is, Yuya's mummy is black. Her DNA has been tested, but not only that, everything about the way the mummy presents, apart from the peroxide blonde hair, is black. This is very clearly a, you know, dolichocephalic skull, you know, very, very long. I mean, if you look at the maxillary region here, incredibly long, okay, that kind of long top lip region. This is just very, very clearly an African, okay, very clearly an African, but they are so desperate for it not to be a black person. They'll just shine, you know, light on the hair. And they do this a lot, you know. It's just kind of like, come on, it's ridiculous. And they have Yuya and Tuya literally opposite each other, and they do this little blue light trick with both of them. So I wanted to show you guys that this is like a big deal for them. So this is where the light's off and you can kind of get a more normal image, okay, without them shining the blue light on the hair, which they love to show. Look, blue light, look, blonde hair. It's like, oh, ridiculous. But if you look at it here, you can see the hair, but the hair has definitely discolored, okay? The hair is no longer dark or black. And I know people will argue this, that, and the other, but I'm just telling you 100% this is a chemical reaction. I'm not even going to sit here trying to say, oh, well, look, you know, Solomon Islanders, oh, black people will blonde. You don't need to do all that. Don't jump through too many hoops for these people. That hair absolutely has undergone some kind of chemical reaction to make it that color. Okay, so you don't need to do all of that, jumping through hoops about this, that, and the other. It's not natural hair color. That's all there is to it. You can see what the mummy looks like naturally. Okay, you can see that. And we have exactly the same thing on there. So there you go. I managed to get out a better picture. And it does almost feel disrespectful looking at the dead like that. But look at the mouth. Okay? Look at the mouth. That is clearly the mouth of an African. Clearly the mouth of an African. And you can see how the discoloration has even spread to the scalp. Okay, so there's clearly something going on in terms of the treatment of this mummy that's made it go like that. And it could be something dating back to how the kind of mummification compound that was used. It could be anything like that. So I'm not making accusations that this was done deliberately by Egyptologists, because it might not be the case. Okay. Someone rightly said, was the forehead blonde too? Exactly. You know, it's ridiculous. Thank you, Jonathan, for pointing that out. So this is the mummy of Yuya. Sorry, not mummy, the cartoonage, the golden cartoonage of Yuya. Okay. And I managed to get some of these are really difficult angles. Once again, you can see it there. Sometimes at a really difficult angle. So I had to get right on top. I think this is, yeah. So this is the mummy of Yuya. Now we're gonna have a look at. Sorry, let me skip over the videos. Didn't work very well. Here we go. So this is the mummy of Yuya. And once again, like I expressed to you guys, why is it doing that? It's weird. Oh, it's video. That's why. Let me skip over to a photo. There. So it's the mummy of Yuya. I mean, look, guys, all things aside, look at the size of Yuya's nostrils, man. Yeah, and remember what I said about him having a long nose. Okay, all of that, all of his artwork, the way his actual artwork portrays him versus how his mummy presents, they are totally coherent to one another. He has thick, very thick lips, even in my after mummification. Thick, full lips, massive nostrils. Okay, which is, by the way, you know, come on, very, very unequivocally African trait. Okay, and yes, he has blonde hair to the root. So there's obviously something about the way Yuya and Tuya were either mummified or treated post mummification that's caused their hair to do that. That's all there is to it, because everything else about them is super bleak. Okay, just like the DNA and just like how they present. Very, 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 very. I mean, like you can see they are both charcoal black, literally, both of them. Okay, so the hair is obviously the misnomer here, but everything else about the way this presents physically is an African person. Okay, once again, very strongly dolichocephalic, once again, as well, very regional look. Okay, also, one thing I didn't mention is that they're both tiny, really small. I know they don't look it in this photo, but they're actually really small. Now, obviously, there's probably a lot of shrinkage that goes on as a result of mummification process, but it's just probably worth noting or pointing out the fact that they're both really small. I did note that while I was there. So I tried to get some good photos. Let me zoom in here to give you. Oops, what happened there? Gotta go back one. So there you go. That's one of the best views of you as mummy you're ever gonna get. Don't say I don't ever do nothing for you guys. And that's no lie. You got to thank Samsung for the resolution and manage to pick out the details, because it's not well lit at all. Okay, so there's Yuya's cartonage again. Okay, and I'm just gonna quickly see where we're at now. We got a couple more artifacts, Yuya artifacts, and then we'll wrap it up for the day. So just a few more Yuya artifacts we're literally gonna go through, and then we'll wrap it up. So I'm just gonna quickly skip forward. Okay, I'm not gonna do the video thing. I mean, it's a beautiful carton, by the way, regardless, like really, really beautiful to look at. So here's Yuya's bar statue, which I'm sure many of you have seen before. And this is one of the kind of like sources of authority alongside other things that I used when I did my reconstruction of his face, because I thought it was very well detailed and it actually matched how he looked like in a lot of other artworks. Okay, so you can see in there, that nose there is definitely much more consistent. Think about the mummy that you just saw, okay? And think about a face with more flesh, natural flesh in it, obviously, not mummified anymore. So the cheeks fill out, the mouth, the lips fill out, the nose fills out. And think about how well that would fall on that mummified body that you just saw, okay? And yes, of course, he has an afro. So something to say, he's got afro hairstyles constantly, consistently. I do think there has been some retouching on the color here. I think it was a deeper brown before, and I think they've used this kind of like brick red to touch it up. They do that a lot, so you just have to be very wary of that. Unfortunately, a lot of, it presents to me as something that's being touched up. It still looks like an African brother though, so nice try. So I got a few images of that, his bar statue. Oh, was that it? That might be it. Why am I getting any weird side views? What's going on there? Oh no, there's a couple more. I just want to quickly show you his Book of the Dead as well, because we get another portrait of Yuya as well. So I'm just going to skip ahead to here. So this is Yuya's Book of the Dead, and you can see, here we go, here's a depiction of Yuya here. And he has this, so here's the one interesting thing about Yuya. He is depicted with white hair. And I wasn't sure before, because I only seen low resolution images of this picture, if the hair was originally black and the color had peeled off, but the hair is definitely deliberately depicted white. And it's quite interesting when you look at his mummy to think, is there a potential that he had this thing where maybe he liked to peroxide his own hair? In other words, was the peroxide was the kind of like to root whiteness of Yuya's hair the result of maybe him liking that process of whitening his hair? Now, obviously, we know in the region they have this kind of like process where they use cow's urine to basically give you the exact effect of peroxide. And there is a possibility that he basically liked to dye his hair white. and I'm not actually ruling that out as a possibility, given how extreme the color of the hair in this mummy was. Now, some people have mentioned it could be the butter, but I'm thinking the only reason I'm thinking along those lines is because, yes, he's always depicted with white hair, but then on top of that, we have this mummy with this really extreme, clearly peroxide hair. So maybe that's the case. Maybe that was just his thing. Maybe Yuya's thing is just that he liked to, bleach his hair. Why not? It could have been his thing. So I'm leaning on that, and obviously, and he might have rubbed off on old Tuya. Men have that kind of effect on their wives. He might be like, yeah, man, during the blonde club. You just never know, man. You never know. But it's clearly, the two things are, A, it's clearly peroxide. Okay, that's 100% sure, and B, this kind of like whiteness that he has in all of his depictions is quite a unique thing. There's not many ancient, and he has it in more than one depiction, which makes me think maybe this was just his thing. He's like his little funky, like a future of the past. So anyway, this is his Book of the Dead, and I had to get that image of him just to kind of like clearly portray that. Some people have said white clay. It's all a possibility. Okay. All right. I just said I want to show you that artifact and then call it a day. It's very late here. It's nearly 12 o'clock. We've been doing 2 hours, 40 minutes. We've gone on way too far. So I think we're going to call it a day. We'll wrap it up there. Had a lot of fun with you guys. I'll schedule another live stream very, very soon. And like I said, I think I might do the whole mummy thing with you guys. Okay. Some people are saying it could be rite of passage linked to spiritual customs. Yeah, let's explore everything. I'm sure we can pull something out of it. But yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you. Appreciate all of you. Appreciate my 4. Wow, there's 0 a second ago, and I've got 4 people in Instagram now. I'm about to shut down. Shout out to my Instagram family. It's been fun having you guys along for the ride. Shout out to my YouTube family, as usual, holding down the fort. We were kind of averaging around between 130 and 140 for the entire stream, so that wasn't a bad look at all. As usual, I've had a whale of a time. So have a good. Let me just give a quick. Let me do a quick plug. Might as well. You know what I mean? To all the little bits and bobs we got going on. So, Save the World. Please stream it, guys. King Mono with an X. All right, that's my track. It's out. Okay, in fact, I'll play it out when we leave today. Down with the King. My second channel, which is kind of like long form, crossed the 5K mark today, which is amazing. It's a 5K subs on that channel. And yeah, just really good content. If you like that kind of long form content, please do check it out. And the King Mono show, I made a plea to you guys to come and help me to hold the fort down, and many of you answered the call, so it's appreciated to have you there. This is more, the King Mono show is more like daily content. I just kind of like upload onto there constantly. It doesn't take me long to make the content at all. So yeah, it's a lot of fun doing it on different topics. And I have to say this right now, guys, my thumbnail game is just on point. I'm sorry, my thumb my thumbnail game is literally on point. So if you want to see like some of the best thumbnails in the game, yeah, you need to see the King Mono Show channel. I've got the thumbnails on lock. The thumbnails are actually much better than the ones I do for this channel. I don't know, I just found this little formula that seems to work really well. So yeah, if you like kind of like quick but relatively entertaining videos, yeah, check them out. And I'd appreciate to see any of you guys there. But that's it. I'm gonna leave now, and I'm gonna play out my new track, Save the World, which is streaming. Feel free to stream it, guys. Appreciate you all. Have a fantastic evening. Take care. Thank you, Patrina. Thank you, Mr. K. Thank you, Rock Evan. Thank you, Ran. Thank you, Baker Boy. Thank you, Science and Inspiration. She Who Must Be Obeyed. BKL Flay, Joy, always good to have you. Thank you very much for your support. Macy, lots of love and appreciation. Sion, Muka, Mukama Kantu, thank you, KW, and everyone else on the stream. I can't scroll up more than that. Appreciate you all, guys. Enjoy the music and peace.
If you knew what you were made of, then we would save the world. If we knew the blood we came from, then we would save the world. From its emptiness and hopelessness, we are the only ones who save the kids. Only we can save the world.
The black city's defined, the black on black crime is only a factor to black folk who lack mind. Get your mind in check before you get your kind checked. The revolution ain't immune to your old mindsets. Your revelation seeks illumination. Our reservations to react where the rats seek the preservation of the status quo where black folk lack the most. From rags to bones, show I'm passionate to crack the code and crack the skull of your coat where your crossbones meet. We ain't the same as those past generations be. Ready for action, influenced by truth. Enemies collapsing with king in the booth or on the tube, or challenging academia in the media. Writing sonnets or draft studies, don't know what's easier. First words in first person, I achieve without a curse word or purse person. How you do it then? Big house built before my words were influencing. This crowd filled before I killed with the music team. It's our world and we're the true in them. So I carry this cross like Jim Waits to show you that we will win.
If you knew what you were made of, then we would save the world. If we knew the blood we came from, then we would save the world. From its emptiness and hopelessness, we are the only ones who save the kids. Only we can save the world.
As those who had violently claimed dominance prove themselves ill-equipped for sustainability, plunging this world into a darkness never before chronicled in what is left of man's historical record. What became apparent was that the remaining swarthy seed of the indigenous, once scorned, perhaps for the sins of their fathers, were in fact the ones in possession of the Holy Grail, the royal blood required to unite our woven species, delivering peace and a unity forgotten to the longevity of our suffering. The problem is, most are entirely unaware that they possess this gift, this unique ability to save a dying world.
If you knew what you were made of, then we would save the world. If we knew the blood we came from, then we would save the world. From its emptiness and hopelessness, we are the only ones who save the kids. Only we can save the world.